as unemployment rate keep on increasing due to many reasons.
Unemployment is considered to be a serious issue in the world. As the population keeps on growing, the demand for job increases. Definition of unemployment does not stop on getting fired or losing your job. There's a lot of type of unemployment, and there is many reasons that could actually lead to it. Could be by technology taking over the human force.
The fact that you cannot overwork robots or give them vacations.
An improved technology that could actually replace the human work.
The robots will be able to do everything better than us.
Dependent on robotic technique without taking any rest. Being unemployed could actually be for the fact that you are miserable at your job while you voluntarily leave in the workforce. Can be due to not meeting your satisfactions or simply because you have other goals to achieve. Some people choose to be unemployed to take care of their loved ones. Unfortunately, in this period where we are living in a pandemic,
19 characterized as a pandemic.
Strict stay-at-home order. Hornets
reported in the U.S. Coronavirus.
COVID-19. Countries are forcing lockdowns, whereas a lot of businesses had to shut down and cut off employees to decrease some expenses, affecting the economic growth. So how unemployment have a role in affecting economic growth?
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Nicknor Anisdiana and now I'm going to answer question 4, which is how unemployment affect the fresh graduates during COVID-19 and how to solve the problem. Keep watching! So first, I'm going to explain the first part of the question, which is how unemployment affects the fresh graduates during COVID-19. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many people have lost their existing jobs due to many companies closing their business. Besides affecting existing workers, COVID-19 pandemic has affected the fresh graduate students as well. These students will be facing a hard time to find a job, especially since they just graduated from university. Even though now the economy in Malaysia have go back to normal, many companies are trying to cover back their losses due to the Movement Control Order, MCO, instructed by the government. Most of the companies have to close their business for a certain period of time due to MCO. This situation will make the fresh graduate students harder to find a job since the company will not be hiring new workers. This will result in the increase in unemployment rate in Malaysia. Besides that, the fresh graduate students will need to use their savings money to pay their monthly expenses such as utility and phone bills. Besides that, these students will have to rely on their parents or family members to help them support their lives since they still couldn't get a job and earn money to pay their expenses. So the next part of the question is how to solve the problem mentioned above. There are several ways to solve this problem. The first one is they can start opening a small online business. For example, they can sell anything that they no longer want to use, such as clothes, bags, or books on the online platform. They do not require a large capital to start their business by selling used or pre-loved items on online platforms such as Carousel or Instagram. When their business starts to grow, they might want to hire some workers to help them with their business. For example, they might want to hire someone who delivers the item to the customers or someone to help them manage their online orders. Therefore, this online business can decrease the unemployment rate in Malaysia and reach the 8th Sustainable Development Goals SDG, which is decent work and economic growth. Other than that, these fresh graduate students can conduct online extra classes for the junior students that might need extra help with their studies, especially during this pandemic. During this MCO period, all lecturers are conducting online classes with their students and they might not be able to catch up with their lecturers' online learning. Therefore, these fresh graduate students can earn extra money by conducting online extra classes for their juniors who need help with their studies.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi everyone. My name is Lubna Akmal, and as for today I will be presenting on how does having sustainable cities and communities in an Islamic economic system can help to reduce the unemployment rate. Alright, so before we go any further into this topic, we need to understand firstly what it means by sustainable cities and communities. To put it short, we can understand it as something that causes little to no damage to the environment. A sustainable city is supposed to be somewhere inclusive where everyone can live safely, a resilient and sustainable city. Alright, so in order to reach the goal of sustainable cities and communities, there are a few targets we need to achieve, which are resource efficient, clean and green. These are explained further in the United Nations goals targeted by them in order to achieve the 11th goal, which is sustainable city. The first one would be resource efficient. So what does it mean by resource efficient? So we collect resources, for example, we collect petroleum, we collect greens such as trees, fishes and so on. How to make it efficient is by collecting it in a manner that doesn't destroy the ecosystem, which answers the United Nations question to reduce the environmental impact of cities and also adverse effects of natural disasters. This is as if we, for example, if we cut too much trees, there will be deforestation and hills will crumble and flash flood will happen, which is very bad. So the second one would be clean. Of course, a sustainable city needs to be clean. UN has also stated the goals of cleaning, for example, provide access to safe and inclusive green and public spaces, affordable and sustainable transport system, protecting the world's cultural and natural heritage. This is okay, for example, if we have Rapid KL in Kuala Lumpur, buses, that public transportations that allows people to travel here and there, and also LRTs, MRTs. If we don't keep them clean, it won't be fun to use it anymore because there are rubbishes everywhere and it's not fun. And too much rubbishes on the street can also block the Rapid KL buses from moving, which is bad. The last point in order to make a city sustainable is green. Green, well, go green, do not destroy the environment. It's kind of obvious there. And there are also a few policies mentioned that supports this point, which is providing access to safe and inclusive green and public spaces. And also, yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so now we know what's the meaning behind sustainable cities and communities. But can this goal be incorporated in Islamic economic system? The answer is yes, it can. Islam supports sustainable living, and there are a few hadith that can be seen to support this argument, as I've included in this slide. We can see, for example, Mu'adh, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Prophet, peace be upon him, warned, beware of the three acts that cause you to be cursed: relieving yourself in shaded places that people utilize, in a walkway, or in a watering place. From here, we can see that the Prophet himself dislikes the idea of an unsanitary environment, because if an environment is unsanitary, it will be not fun for us to live there, and it will also be not fun for other people to be there. And if this continues for a long period of time without anyone cleaning the place, it will destroy a community, and as the scale goes larger, it can also destroy civilizations and cultures. See, even simple acts mean a lot if we take care of it properly. This is why we need to take care of our places, stay clean, everyone. I have included an example in our report, in our term paper, which is fast fashion. Fast fashion is basically cheap fashion styles produced on the market massively based on ideas from fashion shows and celebrity garments. For example, okay, I think you guys might be familiar with these terms: H&M, Zara, Cotton On, As it is produced by cheap labors and materials, it is not a problem for the producers to maximize profit and minimize cost, which is basically what they're aiming for. However, it becomes faulty as fast fashion does not protect the interest of life of the workers, because the workers at Bangladesh and India, they are forced to work every day just for the sake of living, and they are given very, very low wages, and they can't even complain about it, because if they complain about it, they will die, as they do not have any source of money at all. So what they can do is to work and work and work and produce clothes and receive very, very minimum wages. This goes against basic human rights that has been preached by the United Nations and also NGOs. This also goes against our sustainable development goal mentioned, because fast fashion, we know they wanted to produce things fast, so they use cheap dyes, you know, the coloring, in order to color the clothes, and the cheap ones are really toxic, and in order to minimize more cost, they will just throw it anywhere near the river. They will not treat the toxic waste properly, and this can kill animals and risk their welfare. And it also leaves a strong carbon footprint and violates the goals of reducing the environmental impact of cities and providing access to safe and inclusive green and public spaces. So as you can see from here, Islamic economic system and the sustainable development goal of sustainable cities and communities kind of go hand in hand, because they all want the same thing. They all want to have a good environment so that people can live. They want to protect the rights of people. Alright, so now we know the Islamic economic system goes hand in hand with the idea of sustainable city and communities. But here's the main question raised by us during our discussion. How can unemployment be reduced by incorporating sustainable cities and communities in the Islamic economic system? What policies that can be made to combat unemployment and at the same time supports the idea of sustainable cities and communities? First of all, by creating new market jobs. Okay, so we know the rough idea of a safe city that is inclusive for everyone. It needs to be green. So what exactly does it mean by it needs to be green? It needs to use energy that are renewable, that does not destroy the environment, that is, for example, not petroleum, because petroleum is a non-renewable energy. We need to dig it, and it takes a really long time for the petroleum to be made. And from petroleum we can get a lot of items, for example plastics, which is not really a good thing, because plastics, they are not degradable. Okay, some of them are biodegradable, but we all know it takes a really long time for a plastic to disappear completely from this world, maybe 1,000, 2,000 years. And if we keep on producing plastics, how are we supposed to make our city green? Because we don't even know where to throw them anymore. So we need to create new market jobs. For example, by having energy consultant. An energy consultant can be people who research new kind of energy to replace the non-renewable energy ones and create more and find more. For example, find more usage of solar energy, wind energy, the renewable ones that does not destroy the environment. And also we have climate change analysts that can predict the changing climate, because we know the climate is changing really bad right now. It gets hotter and hotter year by year. So these kind of people, they are the ones who are supposed to think, how are we supposed to prevent the climate from changing drastically? And there are a lot more. For example, science teachers and farmers. Different people in different education backgrounds can apply to whichever work that suits them best, and everyone gets to work. When everyone gets work, everyone is included. So doesn't this support the idea of an inclusive city for everyone? Alright, but in order to reach this, we need to train them first, we need to educate them, and this goes to the second policy that can be applied in our economic system, which is education and training. Governments need to work hard and educate this kind of people, because when people are educated, they know more, they learn more, they discover more, and they will be able to work harder because they are more educated, they are more specialized in the term. For example, educating someone in geology, they can be specialized in climate changing. Alright, so yeah. And since we are focusing on Islamic economic system, which heavily leans on growth within socio-economic justice while preserving public interest, it is more expected from the government to give their best in helping the poor and the underprivileged, to help them improve within the market framework. With this, if we keep on doing this constantly, inshallah one day we will reduce the unemployment rate slowly until it reaches 0. So that's all from me. Thank you.
I will explain about what are the solutions to overcome unemployment and why the solution fails. Why does the rate of unemployment matter? As the US, if jobs are unemployed, their families lose wages, and the country as a whole loses its contribution to the economy in terms of goods and services that could have been generated. Unemployed workers often lose their purchasing power, which can lead to joblessness for other employees, creating a cascading impact that ripples through the economy. And unemployment affects even those who are still in jobs. It also can lead to income inequality gap increase. This is not good for the world economy because it causes the rate of GDP. Unemployment can be solved if the nation planned correctly from the outside up. The normal rate of unemployment can be overcome in a variety of ways. These are some of the strategies to overcome unemployment. Firstly, increase the supply of skilled labor. The annual supply of highly skilled workers by 2018 will double. The number of people pursuing tertiary education and training is currently rising by 1% per annum. The availability of highly qualified staff makes it possible for businesses to employ a combination of skilled and unskilled labor. This is a binding restriction at the moment. Secondly, we can strengthen market labor institutions. The labor system needs to be more favorable to the growth of jobs. This needs a substantial effort on the part of the state, private sector, and organized labor to enhance the management of human resources and reinforce structures aimed at resolving conflicts and collective bargaining.
How unemployment affects economic growth. Before that, unemployment is a limitation for a country due to many people willing to work on the existing labor market but cannot secure jobs. Unemployment is a macroeconomic factor representing an economy's failure to make full use of the labor capital. The trend itself is focused on the concentration of socio-economic activity, the development of means of production of high productivity, the higher supply of people capable of occupying the available places in the economy than the actual number of them, or the non-synchronization of the availability of labor and the available spots at the regional or national level. Of course, the lack of sufficient labor force conversion contributes to a rise in the number of unemployed and hence the rate of unemployment. The high level of unemployment and the prolongation of the unemployment crisis have a negative effect on the economy, meaning that the problem of unemployment does not encourage economic development and it can give negative effects on economic growth to the individual and also to the country.
Firstly, unemployment can give negative impacts to the individual, such as they will lose their income. Loss of income will leave people without enough money to cover the cost of housing. Besides that, rises in joblessness also worsen homelessness rates.
Moreover, extended periods of unemployment will drive households into debt and increase relative poverty levels. Poverty issue among those who are unemployed is also very high, as these people are unable to have a sufficient means of income. This will lead an increase in poverty. Other than that, a high unemployment rate will lead to lower wages. This is because high unemployment has meant that many employers pay less for jobs, and laborers are being marginalized because of unemployment. They have to accept low pay and work under circumstances that are adverse. With such an economy, labor value is less than it ought to be because employers will continue to take advantage of the unemployed. Next, high unemployment will also have a negative impact on the country. When viewed through the lens of the national checkbook, the economic cost of unemployment and the effects of unemployment in economic growth of the country are probably more obvious. For instance, increase in government borrowing. It will trigger a decrease in tax revenue as unemployment is higher, as there are less people paying income tax, and so people prefer to spend less. Not only are the unemployed people spending less, but also employed having poor purchasing power due to fear of their work loss. Besides that, unemployment results in higher state and federal government payments for such as unemployment compensation, food assistance, etc. because unemployed people do not work and do not contribute to the country's profit, but they still demand government benefits, and this is an added expense to the country as a whole. Furthermore, it can lower the country's economic gross domestic product. This is because high unemployment means that the economy runs below maximum potential and is inefficient that will result in lower production and revenue. The unemployed are therefore unable to buy as many items, so they will lead to lower expenditure and lower production. An increase in unemployment can lead to a negative multiplier effect. This shows that when unemployment increases, the GDP of the country will decrease. It can be concluded that unemployment has an inverse relation to the economy's efficiency.
The whole world nowadays is in the grip of financial crisis due to COVID-19 pandemic. Most of the people affected the pandemic by lying down from their job. Some business should have to dismiss their employees due to the reduction of the profit. Because of this is the solution to the unemployment crisis in Islamic perspective. A Muslim who affected this pandemic is now do not have jobs. It makes some Muslims unable to meet the needs of their life. The financial crisis due to this pandemic has taken away money from the public. Many have lost their jobs because of this situation. If they lost their jobs, they did not get the money. But in Islam, there are some pay that must be done by spending a certain amount of cost. In the month of Zulhijjah, in this month, for example, Muslims are commanded to do kurban. It can only be done if Muslims have money to buy animals or Muslims have animals. Others are the Sharia of zakat, donation, studying, and so on. Mudarabah is the contract of cooperation between the bank as the owner of the funds or Shahibul Mal and the customer as the mudarib who has the expertise or skills to manage a productive and halal business. The profits from the use of these funds are shared based on agreed ratios. Profits are shared between Rab al-Mal or someone who has capital and mudarib or someone who manage in agreed upon proportion. If there is a loss, the first person is entitled to responsibility, and the second loses its share in the expected profit. However, if mudarib is proven tripping, like fraud, breach of trust, he is fully responsible for damage. Buying or selling mudarabah asset is not permitted. After mudarib pays a share in profits, profits can be used again in other trades. Mudarabah profit is the amount obtained as excess of capital. If Muslims already get the profit from mudarabah, it can help to increase the economic growth of the country. Also, if they can open the business, they will help other Muslims who did not get jobs. It means it can help open up the jobs to other Muslims.
So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mohamed and in this situation I want to explain about how the unemployment could be prevented by having a good economic situation that supports education. Nowadays, unemployment is one of the biggest issues in this world that is hard to solve. Moreover, in this pandemic situation, things could be worse and it is resulting that the number of unemployed will also increase. However, having a good quality of education is one of the best ways to prevent or reduce unemployment these days. Education could be considered as an important part since once we have enough education, we could identify our passion and skills. Having higher education could help us identify more on what we need and what is fit with ourselves. Also, higher education we earned, higher competence we got once we are starting to seek a job. Based on a research in 2012 from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that compares the earnings between those who already get enough education with those people who haven't got enough education, it showed that those who got doctoral degrees will have more chance for competing in the workplace, and it results that they could be paid higher than others. Also, the chance for being unemployed isn't high as the people who only finished their high school. From here, we could sum up that having a good education system in the company could prevent us from becoming unemployed. Also, it could decrease the number of unemployment, and also it could make ourselves have more competence and higher quality of work in the workplace.